It has been a crazy summer, and the Indian news cycle has been relentless. We've seen horrific killings, governments change, bulldozer politics, and arrests of activists and journalists. So much hua hai that it seems like a world ago when communal tensions rocked the country in early summer and set the tone for the rest of the season. It was a time when bulldozer justice was all over TV news. While all this was happening, one question stuck with us.
ये माइनॉरिटी का इलाका क्या होता है ये तो बताइए ना वकार साहब।
ये मुस्लिम मोहल्ला क्या होता है?
What is a Muslim area, Shehzad Poonawala?
Okay, so what is a Muslim area? Why do we have Muslim ghettos in a secular country? And what's the legal position on this? A ghetto is that part of a city where members of a minority group live, especially as a result of political, social, legal, and economic pressure. It is usually the poorer, more crowded sections of the city. Let's look at a study to understand this in our context. Records of about 2,000 registered societies in Delhi NCR tell us that more than 1,300 of them have zero Muslim members. A staggering 68% of housing societies in Delhi have no Muslims. Now, Delhi has a Muslim population of 12.9%, but the average Muslim membership in the city's registered societies is less than 4%. So where are the Muslims living? If we talk about registered housing, 6 in 10 Muslims live in societies that have 90 to 100% Muslim occupancy. So Muslims live with Muslims. And the areas where they live, like Jamia Nagar, Batla House or Daryaganj, are also coincidentally characterized by poor urban planning, claustrophobic housing, and lack of basic civic amenities. And that, my friend, is Ghettoization 101. The Sachar Committee report notes that Muslims living together in concentrated pockets, both because of historical reasons and a deepening sense of insecurity, has made them easy targets of neglect by municipal and government authorities. Water, sanitation, electricity, schools, public health facilities, banking facilities, Anganwadis, ration shops, roads, and transport facilities are all in short supply in these areas. Ghettoization of the community implies a shrinking space for it in the public sphere, affecting their employability and means of earning a livelihood. So, do we have laws that address this? Mostly, no. Maharashtra is the only state to have codified laws prohibiting discrimination in housing societies. Otherwise, India does not have any specific law that looks at discrimination in private housing markets, even though such recommendations have been made by government committees like the Sachar Committee 2006 and the Expert Group on Equal Opportunity Commission 2008. There is one law, though, that actually aggravates residential segregation. It's in Gujarat and it's called the Disturbed Areas Act 1991. What does this law do? First, it gives power to the government to declare certain areas disturbed. Then, in these disturbed areas, the law stops Hindus and Muslims from selling or leasing property to each other without the permission of the district collector. So while the law is supposedly aimed at preventing distressed sales, in reality, it has meant more segregation. In fact, it has been actively misused by Hindu supremacist groups in Gujarat to fight against the bogey of land jihad. You know, evil Muslims out there conspiring to take over Hindu land and eventually the entire country. Don't you watch this guy? The conspiracy theory of land jihad is closely linked to Muslim ghettoization elsewhere too. In Uttarakhand, alleged large-scale migration of Muslims was used as an election issue by the BJP. Some Hindu priests and BJP leaders even demanded a ban on Muslims possessing property in a state which is also known as Devbhoomi. And guess what? In September 2021, the Uttarakhand government under Pushkar Singh Dhami actually launched a demographic investigation into property deals. You know, to address this changing demography by Muslims. Hindu-Muslim bhai is okay, but Padosi, no. Now, the partition of the Indian subcontinent was done along religious lines. So obviously, religion and demography have been interlinked since the inception of this country. Muslim zones, as they were referred to during post-partition rearrangement of cities like Delhi, and sometimes interchangeably called trouble areas, have always existed. So yes, Navika, there are Muslim areas in this secular country, and they've always existed. Why? The answer at a basic level is twofold. First, fear and suspicion of the other. India's young history has been peppered with communal riots. Remember the capital city in 2020? Recurring violence means that fear is an ever-present phantom, which makes mixed areas a constant source of unease. So each time Bombay, Gujarat, or Muzaffarnagar happens, ghettos expand and consolidate. So much so that even when post-liberalization, Muslims migrate from smaller towns to metropolitan cities, they tend to gravitate only towards Muslim pockets. Take Mumra in Bombay, for example. After the 1992 riots, thousands of Muslims sought security in numbers in the Mumra area. Today, its population is about 85% Muslim. Or see the trajectory of Ahmedabad, where nearly half of the Muslim population of the city is found in just one area, Juhapura. Christopher Jaffalo's Muslims in Indian Cities categorically attributes the ghettoization of Muslims in India to organized violence. Even the Sachar Committee report states that, fearing for their security, Muslims are increasingly resorting to living in ghettos across the country. This is more pronounced in communally sensitive towns and cities. So the very real threat of violence translates into the very real existence of Muslim ghettos. The second factor contributing to ghettoization is more insidious: housing discrimination. Muslim segregation isn't self-imposed. It's not because Muslims don't mix. It's because in many places, they are not welcome to mix. A 3-year research project on housing discrimination in cities like Delhi and Mumbai show layers of prejudice. Brokers who won't deal with Muslim clients or landlords who won't sell to them. Cut across class barriers, Muslim tenants are either not welcome in some areas, subjected to differential rental terms and conditions, or simply directed to areas where they have a chance to find a house. No points for guessing what these areas are. Whether it's hiding behind seemingly innocuous food habits, we only rent to vegetarian families, or explicit denials, no Muslims and no Muslims. The discrimination is informal, unspoken, and speaks of deep-seated prejudice. It is also built on hard economics. When you have some builders of housing societies that will not sell to Muslims because they don't want to risk losing business from Hindus, you then have builders who make these rejected Muslims their target market and advertise residential towers exclusively for Muslims. How enterprising! Muslim tenants often confess to a certain humiliation and alienation that comes with such rejection. Matlab, getting rejected because sorry no Muslims really truly questions your sense of belonging. When you don't live with the other, there's no dialogue and friendship. And when there's no dialogue and friendship, it's easier to fear or demonize the other. What can we do about this? Are you investing enough in dialogue and friendship? From classrooms to newsrooms, is hate and prejudice being addressed by civil society? Anti-housing discrimination laws. Is the government looking at systemic solutions to deal with systemic discrimination? Hate news on TV. Are those spreading divisive misinformation and hate being held accountable? But for all of this to happen, we will need better representation. And currently, the governing BJP has 0 Muslim members in parliament. So with that, we wrap this cheat sheet. Hope it was helpful. We will be sharing all our research resources below for those interested in reading more, and I highly recommend that you read more. Please leave us with some suggestions of what you would like us to cover in NL Cheat Sheet, and subscribe to News Laundry. See you next time.
The subscription model is something that keeps News Laundry afloat, but we need hundreds of thousands of people to completely transform the news ecosystem. So you pay for news, so it serves you. So click on the link with this video, subscribe to News Laundry and pay to keep news free. और गर्व से कहो, मेरे खर्च पर आज़ाद है खबरें.